It's Memorial Day here in the US. In acknowledgement of that, I did a video on US Army Jeeps in 118 scale, and I'm going to close out the weekend by covering the enemy and talk about German World War II staff cars. In my opinion, the Nazis make the perfect enemy. It's politically correct to hate them, and they are technologically advanced and very much a caricature of villainy. So I pulled out a bunch of supervillain Nazi action figures, and we'll use them as reference for people compared next to the actual vehicles in 118 scale. So going over my library a little bit, I'm an enthusiast of World War II vehicles and armor and weaponry. And most of my library is reference based. So all the books tend to be like photo reference or technical specs and things like that. I don't really buy too many books on sort of anecdotes or stories or memories of the Second World War. I tend to go with the technical side of it and pick up a lot of books on the vehicles. So there's no shortage of content out there. Volkswagens, Mercedes-Benz, and some of the other vehicles that are lesser known, BMW motorcycles, and of course my favorite is the big German G4 staff car. So I've got a couple great books on this vehicle, and we'll review this one in 118 scale at the end. It'll be the last vehicle at the end of the video. So let's start, and let's go over some of the smaller vehicles. So World War II Germany, Dr. Ferdinand Porsche, yes, from the Porsche car fame. He created the Volkswagen VW under Hitler's sort of directives, and the VW Beetle that was so familiar to everybody here up into the 1970s actually started out under Nazi regime, and it had a couple different incarnations as it was being developed, and here's one of them. So before it became the truly iconic VW Beetle, this particular model is a V3 Versuchswagen in the mid 1930s. So this is 118 scale, and once again, these vehicles, with the exception of one or two of them, are all die-cast collectors vehicles, and you will be hard pressed, or it will be virtually impossible to seat action figures inside the vehicles. But they look good with figures. So here's a super villain Tote from Raiders of the Lost Ark, and he's right on scale with this VW. So we can pull a more uniformed version of Colonel Vogel here from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and he looks really appropriate with the scale of this vehicle. I picked this color because it's got this it's what you want it to be in the 1940s, that sort of muted gray type of depressed color for the times. And we all know the German army, they love their field gray. So this car here, this is called an Opel Kadett. And Opel was another German manufacturer, made a bunch of vehicles for the war. And this is pitched as 118 scale. This brand is called KK scale. A lot of these are almost unbranded, and I just find them from extensive eBay searching. But this is pitched as 118 scale, but in my opinion it's a little small. So if we take the Red Skull, for example, here, He looks a little big next to the vehicle. And if we took a Marauder, I'd say he's certainly going to look far too big. He's just going to dwarf the vehicle. But nevertheless, German staff cars are hard to come by, and this would look good in the background of any of your scenes or your dioramas. For example, here I have a customized, let's call it a French hotel that the Nazis have commandeered and turned it into their headquarters in occupied France. This is a Calico Critters / Sylvanian Families restaurant, and it's actually two of them. I cut one apart and added a third floor to make this higher rise hotel. But you know, if you park a vehicle next to it, it can look pretty good to make an overall scene. But enough on that. We'll move on a little bit. So we've covered the VW and we've covered the Opel Kadett. Now here is this is a 21st Century Toys Volkswagen Kübelwagen. VW made these as well for the war effort, and it's essentially the equivalent of a German Jeep. However, the Jeep was four-wheel drive. The Kübelwagen was not, but it's air-cooled, and you could actually swap quite a few parts from a VW Beetle and a Kübelwagen. They shared a lot of traits: suspension, wheels, motor parts, things like that. In fact, after the war, as part of the recovery, the VW factories would take all the parts they could find just to sort of kickstart some sort of industry, and you would have leftover Kübelwagen parts that never saw service being mounted onto VW Beetle floor pans, and you'd have these post-war hybrid Kübel type of vehicles that found all sorts of service. So this is a plastic toy, and being that it's made by 21st Century Toys, it was made for 3.75-inch action figures. Now, anybody who's collected any of their line of figures knows they had very strange articulation, twist knees with 45-degree angles, so you would have to twist the shin 180 degrees to get it to have a seating position, and the plastic gets brittle over the years, but it's not too friendly for 5 points of articulation action figures to get them into the seats and stuff, but with some effort, I'm sure you could. I think the vehicle is far too small to seat Marauder action figures into it, but I think it looks okay though in scale with the Marauder guys. Very iconic vehicle. It's a vehicle I'm heavily interested in. Post-war, the VW Thing in the 1970s bore some aesthetic similarities, and I actually had 3 VW Things at one time, and one of them I was trying to convert into a World War II Kübelwagen. I never quite finished, and alas, I sold the project, but it was fun to have some VW Things for a while. So this is the 21st Century Toys one, and then there's a die-cast collector's market version from a company called Mini Champs in the UK. And this is a beautifully detailed model. So once again, metal with a lot of plastic on this one. But the Mini Champs and most of the die-cast collector's toys always have full detail. Let's see if this has the engine in there. Yep, there's the VW air-cooled engine. I'm not quite sure what size it was for World War II. I know my VW Things had a 1600cc engine, but the scale is pretty close to the 21st Century Toys Kübel, and it's a beautiful model, and I think it makes a great addition to any World War II collection. Mini Champs also made this Kübel in a camouflage version, and I think they made it in an Africa Core version, desert tan with balloon tires. The tires, while these ones have an aggressive tread pattern, there was a version of tires that Africa Core vehicles used that had no tread whatsoever. They looked like inner tubes, and that was meant for the sand, to help them stay afloat on the sand. But that's it for the Kübels. And then let's go to this vehicle. I believe this is a Mercedes-Benz truck. This is from the Indiana Jones line. Definitely from Raiders of the Lost Ark. This is the one that drives off the cliff during the truck chase. But there was also another vehicle very similar to this called a Horch command car. But I want to say this one was supposed to be a Mercedes in the movie. But generous room in this one for 3.75-inch figures. And Marauders look and fit great in it. There you go. I think this sort of slate gray color is a little too pale to look correct. So this vehicle, in my opinion, would definitely benefit from a paint treatment. The Raiders of the Lost Ark vehicles were in the movie. They were pretty strangely painted. I don't know, a lot of odd colors. But these guys are kind of hard to get now. They're I wouldn't say hard to get, but they're pricey. So I think they've gone up a little too ridiculously in price. So let's move on to some other German staff cars here. This is all right. This one's really neat. This is actually a radio-controlled vehicle in 1/16 scale. This is a Steyr command car. A lot of these German command cars were basically just a stone's throw away from being a combat vehicle, and this Steyr is no different than that. It would be four-wheel drive and convertible. They often had machine gun mounts all over the place. This one's equipped for gas cans. You'll see this marking on a lot of doors of German vehicles. You'll also see this marking a lot. This is largely for what is known as soft skin vehicles. Generally, it means trucks and things like that with convertible tops. They're just not armored vehicles like half tracks or tanks. But generally, this marking, if memory serves, is called a Balkenkreuz, or is not used on soft skin vehicles. So they threw the decals in on this kit, so I put them on, but it really wouldn't have had that. But I never say never when it comes to World War II history. There's always an example of something. But this is the marking most accurately for German soft skin vehicles and trucks. This is a data marking. So when these vehicles were transported by rail, the weight and certain things on there, dimensions and stuff like that, is on that data plate. And the rail crews could easily tie that down onto a flat car, knowing what they were dealing with. So on this model, the top comes off. It's stuck for some reason. There we go. So there's some seating in there, and these doors open up. It's a really cool model. It's they've got little magnets. The hood opens up, but because it's radio controlled, there's your battery, and I think there's a charging connection back here. But all this is all metal, and because it's radio controlled, it has a suspension, and turning wheels and everything like that, and working headlights. So really cool model. I am thrilled to have this one in my collection. So compared to some figures, if we take Colonel Vogel, who's probably one of the smallest ones, actually I think this is also a Colonel Cronin from Hellboy. He's pretty small too. So I think it looks fine. It's a little beefy looking, but when we take a Marauder, I think he looks a little more appropriate in scale to the 1/16 scale Steyr. Um, and I'm sure with some effort, you can probably get him in the back seat. I'm not quite sure about the driver's seat. But beautiful, beautiful model. And really, like, it's a hybrid between the die-cast collectors models and RC stuff, you know. And it's got some reasonable suspension detail going on there. Now, these two command cars here, this is a Mercedes Pullman. This is very popular in the history books for German officers, particularly Hitler and the other high command officers. They loved this Mercedes Pullman. Very long, large, grandiose vehicle, and this is a 1/18 scale model. So you'll see the Marauder. In my opinion, he's kind of big for it, but I definitely give a lot of forgiveness between Marauders, 3.75-inch action figures, 1/18 scale vehicles, and 1/16 scale vehicles. I intermix them all fully, but when you put Tote in the back here, like he's arriving to his destination, and then somebody's gonna greet him. He looks like he's made for this vehicle. It's just a perfect match aesthetically. Tote, unfortunately, is just a 5-point of articulation figure, so he would look kind of silly sitting there with his legs straight out. But Colonel Vogel, however, he would probably, does he have knee art? Yeah, he has. Yes, he has knee articulation. He'd look great in there. In fact, he looks right out of the movie with the car. Nice vehicle, but it is definitely a die-cast collector's model, so there's some delicate qualities to it. But once again, full detail under the hood and all the typical things that come with the 1/18 scale die-cast collector's hobby. So they look great with figures. They're just not really made for figures. And we'll finish up with the Mercedes G4. So this one, once again, is another die-cast model. And this is one of my two favorite World War II vehicles. The other one's an actual amphibious landing craft. But I just think this vehicle is unique, and it's like over the top indulgent in luxury, and it's like a hybrid between a truck and a luxury vehicle. It's they made a limited amount of these, about a dozen of them, if I'm not mistaken, and they're 4-wheel drive, not 6-wheel drive. This is a cross-country vehicle, so it's definitely meant for the long haul. This is a luggage trunk which had custom-made suitcases for the actual size of the trunk, and Hitler would tour around in this thing. And they also made a more combat version of this. It would be colored field gray and had some machine guns mounted to it. One of the interesting things on it is, let's see, they actually put it here in the model, is there are Luger holsters sewn into the doors. So, you know, your high command officers would have some protection immediately at hand. But so goes great with 1/18 scale figures like the Cortex Commander here, and or we can use the Acid Rain version of the Cortex Commander, and he can be chauffeured to his destination where he has to meet his frontline officers and create some havoc by unleashing his Nazi cyborgs on the innocent populace of Europe. But beautiful vehicle, beautiful model, well done in all regards, and certainly has that high command German look to it. So great for your dioramas or play sets and whatnot. And goes fantastic with no shortage of villain action figures like the Red Skull here. So yeah, that's it. That's it for the German staff cars that I have. I believe there's another 1/18 scale wartime Mercedes out there in diecast. It's not really my priority to pick any more up. I mean, when you have half a dozen or so here, I don't really need any more in my collection. But when the price is right and I discover them, I always pick them up. And you can never, if the price is right, you can never have too many. But I'm sure my wife would disagree on that regard. All right, so that's it for the Germans. And ultimately, all you guys get defeated and wind up in hell. All righty, Memorial Day. Enjoy, everyone. Remember the fallen, and have a great week. And we'll see you next week, hopefully, with a couple videos.